They clapped for him while he erased me, sentence by sentence, on a stage lit too brightly for lies. I remember that moment more clearly than my wedding day. The microphone hummed. The audience leaned forward. And the man I once trusted cleared his throat and began telling our story like I was a footnote he'd outgrown. I didn't interrupt. I didn't correct him. I just sat there and felt something in me finally go quiet. I'm 36. I work as a program manager for a non-profit in Austin, Texas. At the time, I'd been with Marcus for 8 years. Long enough to share a lease, a dog, a circle of friends, and a reputation as the steady couple. The kind people point to when they want proof that relationships can survive ambition. But ambition was exactly where the distance started. Marcus had always loved an audience. Panels, talks, workshops, any room where people listened. I supported him the way partners do quietly. Proofreading slides at midnight, covering rent when grants fell through, reminding him to eat before events. I stopped attending as many talks near the end. He said it distracted him. I told myself that was normal. The stage was part of a regional conference on social innovation. Marcus had been invited to speak about leadership and resilience. I came because people expected me to be there. Because not showing up felt like admitting something was wrong. Halfway through his talk, he smiled in that familiar, practiced way and said, "I learned early on that sometimes you have to outgrow relationships that hold you back." The room chuckled softly. He went on. About sacrifices. About partners who didn't understand the vision. About choosing growth over comfort. He never said my name. He didn't have to. People turned their heads anyway. It wasn't just the story. It was the ease with which he told it. Like he'd rehearsed removing me. That's when I understood the betrayal wasn't private. It was strategic. Later that night, I learned the rest. A mutual friend pulled me aside, eyes heavy with pity, and asked how long I'd known about the consultant. A woman Marcus had been traveling with. Someone who really gets his work. I laughed at first. Not because it was funny, but because my body hadn't caught up to reality yet. When I confronted him in the hotel hallway, my voice was calm in a way that surprised even me. "You told them I was holding you back," I said. He didn't deny it. He didn't apologize. He just shrugged and said, "I never loved you the way you wanted. You were convenient. You made things easier." Convenient. 8 years condensed into a word you'd use for an app. I asked about her. He sighed, impatient, like I was missing the point. "My feelings don't matter to you anymore," he said. "And honestly, they shouldn't. I've moved on." There was no yelling. No dramatic exit. Just the dull click of something breaking cleanly. I went back to the room alone and sat on the edge of the bed until morning. That was the collapse. Not tears, those came later, but the loss of orientation. I didn't know who I was without the version of myself that supported him. For weeks after, I kept drafting messages in my head. Corrections I wanted to make. People I wanted to set straight. I imagined defending myself publicly, reclaiming the narrative. Then one night, staring at my phone at 2 a.m., I realized something terrifying and freeing. Explaining myself was keeping me tethered to him. That was the turning point. I stopped answering questions that weren't asked with care. I let people believe whatever version made sense to them. I redirected my energy to things that didn't require applause. I moved out. Slowly. No dramatic goodbye post. No announcement. I focused on my work, on running programs where impact mattered more than image. I started therapy, not to fix myself, but to hear my own voice again. Months passed. Then a year. I heard through the same grapevine that Marcus's new partnership hadn't lasted. That his talks had grown sharper, more bitter. That people noticed the pattern even if they didn't name it. We ran into each other once, by chance, at a cafe. He looked tired. Older. He started to explain himself. I let him talk. When he finished, I simply said, "I hope you find what you're looking for." It wasn't revenge. It wasn't forgiveness. It was neutrality, the most powerful distance I'd ever felt. I didn't win anything tangible. No apology tour. No public vindication. But I reclaimed something quieter and sturdier, my sense of self without an audience. Here's what I learned. People who rewrite your story in public aren't confused. They're curating. And you don't owe them a rebuttal. Silence, when chosen intentionally, can be an act of self-respect, not surrender. If you're listening to this and you've been erased, misrepresented, or humiliated by someone who once stood beside you, know this. Your life doesn't need their correction to move forward. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is leave the room unchanged and build a future that doesn't need their version of the past.